What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content pretty much every day, usually every day, as well as live streaming every day. But I did take some time off for the holidays, and I'm wishing you all a happy holiday season. This video is also brought to you by my music. I do have a new song coming out on January 1st called Run. So check it out. Let me know what you think when it is out if you end up watching this afterwards. But for those of you on Spotify, there is a pre-save link in the description below, and I would appreciate if you would consider pre-saving it, as that does help the algorithm. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this video. As I mentioned earlier, I took some time off. I hope that you guys enjoy the Christmas holiday. New Year's is just around the corner, and I am excited about 2025. And I thought for the first video back after taking some time off, I wanted to talk about what I'm excited about for Splinterlands in 2025, this upcoming year. Now, there's a lot, right? I'm excited about a lot of things in 2025. Bitcoin, crypto, just markets in general. There's a lot of really cool things going on. But when we scale it down to Splinterlands, I wanted to focus in on a few specific areas. And I really tried my best to not just pick out, hey, what are the things that the team is working on in Q1? But as you'll see here, there's a couple of items that are on there, and I'm going to explain why. So let's dive in. Top 4 things. Number one, and in no particular order, right? But number one is survival mode. This is a game mode that I know probably got a lot of pushback early on when it was announced, but I have no idea what to make of it yet. All I know is that Matt and the team are really excited about it, and I do believe it can be this. Some people may not like it, but it can be this backdoor utility into what land was supposed to be until land can come out. And then, of course, once land is actually out, it will allow people to have to choose, right? Or make people have to choose, where do I want to put my extra units? Do I want to put them in survival mode, or do I want them on land? And so obviously there's been this overhang of Chaos Legion cards, right? The core cards, the reward cards, maybe even Rift Watchers to a certain extent. And I do genuinely think that this could be a place in which a lot of those cards start to get some usage. And at the end of the day, I know people aren't a big fan of, there's always like this anti-whale sentiment, but the whales move markets here. And the whales are carrying this game. I'm going to make a video about that specifically. And anytime the whales fight with each other, anytime that they compete with one another, in my opinion, the entire game economy wins, right? If you are here and you are participating, then that is awesome. You are going to benefit from that. So what do I mean by this? Well, if we go into a situation where card collections are now very highly desired, like massive card collections of extra cards where you can go in and earn a good amount of SPS just by having these, I would love to see all of those either, large card collectors or maybe aspiring card collectors really come in and soak up all of the liquidity on Chaos Legion cards and anything else, right? To me, now every card is going to have a use case. And what I mean by that is, sure, you had land, which is very incomplete. And then you had the regular game, which, if you didn't, let's say you got a couple of extra BCX of your Jin O'Shaughnessy's, right? Or your old reward cards. You can't really rent those out. Sure, you can sell them for 50 cents or whatever. Maybe you bought them for more back in the day, but now they have a purpose. Now, if you can pair them up with a summoner, like you can just go in and play the game. Or if you don't want to, it's going to be like wild format where you're able to just automate the play. So there is going to be something there for every single card now. And what's crazy about this when it comes to survival mode is if you can just field the team, you might win some games, right? So your rusty androids, your hardy stonefishes, right? Just the simple fact that you have an extra one of those cards and maybe your opponent doesn't, or maybe your opponent doesn't have enough cards to really maximize the rule set and the elements given. I mean, all of that will be in your favor, right? Just having options will be in your favor. And it will no longer be like, I need to have every single card in the game. It's like you could probably try to chase some very cheap meta teams. And then since all the energy is in the cards anyway, it's like just play the game and, try to win the games that you can with those teams, right? Maybe a strong water team, maybe a strong life team, whatever it is. But you can get a ton of these cards now for relatively cheap. Pair them up with pair them up with summoners and then see who you're up against. So there's so many unknowns, but in a good way, in my opinion, about survival mode. and I get it, right? Are there pitfalls? Are there potential, harmful things that could come about? Absolutely. But I'm more than convinced that the team is trying to stay ahead of this and will pivot as needed, especially if there's a lot of, we'll call it, encouragement from the community to do so. I don't think that it's going to be an issue. And, 1 or 2 seasons of trying to figure things out, or I was going to say 1 or 2 months, which is 3 or 4 seasons of trying to figure things out, I don't think is going to be a big deal if we have to really pivot right away. So that's number 1. Number 2 is validators. Now, the thing about validators that I am most excited about, outside of I'm sure, people are excited about decentralization and blah, blah, blah. I very much value data integrity, and that is just something we have not had in this project. As much as I love it, we have not had data integrity when it comes to how much SPS is being issued, is the right amount being issued to the right things. The audit that Clay and the team did was very eye-opening and not in a fantastic way. So from what I'm hearing, validators is going to make that much easier and much more transparent, and that is something that I'm hoping will be helpful not only for me, right, as somebody who has a decent amount of stake in the game, but for the other added benefits that I was mentioning earlier, like people are like, okay, well, maybe we get listings that way, or maybe people are, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko take us a little bit more seriously. Other projects might take us more seriously. But, the game enters this a new era of decentralization once that happens. So that is my hope with validators. Like I said, on the micro level, for me, it's just about data integrity, being able to go through and be like, okay, let's take a look. Where is all the SPS? How is it all working? Is it all doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? Rather than having to have Clay go through, I'm sure many hours of exercise trying to figure out, where all the SPS is, how much has been issued, how much is owed. So to me, data integrity is first and foremost in blockchain, right? And the fact that we've kind of made it this far without really having that for the governance token is fascinating, to say the least. But, we're moving forward here, and I'm excited about that, hopefully coming up next month. Okay, number 3, modern format rotation. And I'm being very specific here. This is not about Conclave Arcana, although Conclave Arcana will be the event, right? The launch of it will be the event that does rotate modern format. Again, I'm as excited as anybody else for Conclave Arcana, but that's not what my point is here. That's not the thing. It's going to be another set. It might offer some cool new things, but whatever the case is, it's just going to be another set. What I'm really excited about is turning the page on the past, mainly with Chaos Legion rotating out of modern format. There's a lot of people who are saying, oh man, Chaos Legion prices are down right now and they're going to go down even further once, modern format rotates, or once it rotates out of modern format. I mean, maybe that could be the case. Maybe not. Ultimately, in my mind, it doesn't matter, right? When that happens, which should be, in March or most likely April of this year, my hope is that with land 1.75, with survival mode, you are going to see a better use case for a lot of these extra cards. And again, when I say extra, I'm primarily talking about Chaos Legion, just because it's so overpopulated, so overprinted. And so finally getting that out of the rear view, or putting that into the rear view mirror, getting that out of our focus, I know some people will be upset and say oh, well, they never really did anything to save Chaos Legion. And you may be right. I may agree with you to a certain extent on that. Although I think survival mode and land will end up being like the Chaos Legion modes or game modes. But ultimately, just being able to see what modern format looks like with this new, with this new set, with Rebellion being similar to Untamed. In my opinion, we're going to be entering into a very interesting time period where if there's even less people playing, just imagine how much more the folks at the top are making. And that could be with the backdrop of SPS going up for multiple reasons, right? If the market is starting to move forward, or the flywheel, which I'll get to in the last point, there could be a multitude of different things that really make it so that top tier players are earning a good amount. And that could attract more people to come in, which will attract more people to buy Conclave Arcana because there's no more Rebellion packs available in the store. That will lead to more, DEC getting locked up in the DAO and all that good stuff, right? Flywheel action. So ultimately, I do think that this format rotation is going to be very solid. I don't think that it's going to impact Wild format that much. I mean, hopefully we get more people participating in Wild, those that maybe don't want to go heavy into Rebellion or Conclave Arcana. That ends up burning more DEC for the Wild passes. And, ultimately, I know that people are going to look at this and the min-max is like, well, if I'm not earning more than I am paying, then what's the point? And again, you're not wrong, but maybe that pushes people over to survival mode, right? There's going to be a multitude of different things here, survival mode or land. So ultimately, this is going to be a major shift for us because it's really going to close the chapter in many ways for Chaos Legion and put it in the legacy the legacy format at this point. But I'm excited for that. I really am curious to see how things shake out afterwards. And the fact that this is going to be happening with the backdrop of a new set launching, with hopefully a lot of demand for DEC and all the other things that the team's working on Q1, with it happening in the backdrop of an additional backdrop of the bull run, right? If things in April of 2025 look anything similar to what they look like in April of 2021, that's going to be some fun times. And so that takes me to my final point here, the flywheel. Now, just our favorite little buzzword here, the SPS flywheel. Now, the thing is, we did see this in action a little bit over a year ago when Rebellion launched along with LAN 1.5. And, SPS did like a 3x at the time. Now, again, I don't know what is going to happen when it comes to the price action for SPS this time around, but I'm quite confident that we will have flywheel action, at least when Conclave Arcana comes out. And the reason I say that is because I cannot imagine a scenario in which people went heavy on Rebellion, sold out the presale, sold out the presale, and cards held their value well. That happened, at the tail end of a bear market, maybe the early rumblings of a bull market. But if we're in the throes of it, Bitcoin is 100K or it's crossed 100K and it's doing things and people are feeling bullish and gaming and all these different narratives popping up. I cannot imagine a scenario in which we don't sell out the pre-sale for Conclave Arcana. I mean, maybe I could be wrong, and maybe it doesn't sell out exactly, but if we were to sell out the pre-sale, that's 4.5 billion DEC. I mean, even if we were only to do a fraction of that or half of that, I mean, it's like over 2 billion DEC. At this point, right, there is not that much DEC to go around. I know that there's a lot that still could be printed from the old reward cards, and there's still a lot that players are holding on to, but 2 to 4 billion DEC is more than enough, in my opinion. Like, demand for that in a shortened time period, such as like the pre-sale. There's more than enough, in my opinion, there's more than enough demand to really drive that to a point where DEC goes back up the peg and we start burning some SPS for additional DEC. Again, we'll have to wait and see how that all works out, but I think that this time around that the flywheel can be much more impactful. And the team has changed a bunch of stuff over this past year in 2024 to really tighten that up, right? We got rid of all of the different faucets, whether it was gladiator cards, whether it was reward cards, right? Soulbound reward cards have solved that, where you can only get DEC from SPS, right? Obviously, there's a limited amount, finite amount of older cards, or maybe, well, you can't even do gladiator cards, but older reward cards. But at this point in time, like, that's, it's not that much, right? To the point where if we're talking about 4 billion DEC of volume, or let's just say locking up 2 billion DEC into the DAO, that's going to move the needle. Now, how far it goes, I don't know. Where things go, is it going to do another 3x? I mean, at this point, if it does a 3x, it would still be lower than where it was a year ago. But my point is that we are going to hit the flywheel at some point in 2025, and I will be very excited to see just how hard and fast it goes, primarily because, once again, the backdrop of a much more bullish market, tailwinds instead of headwinds, and, the game, and more importantly, the game economy in a significantly better place to drive value, as Matt says, to drive value back to asset holders, back to SPS holders. So I'm looking forward to this. You've heard my price predictions for SPS in the past. I'm actually very conservative, but I genuinely think that we're gonna see the flywheel, and I will be very excited to see what happens, whether my price predictions end up being too aggressive or too conservative once the flywheel action gets started. But I have no doubt that it will get moving. I mean, barring anything crazy happening, I have no doubt that it'll happen. Again, considering that there's just a lot of tailwinds for crypto and gaming right now. But that is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are the things that you are most excited about for Splinterlands in 2025? Do you agree with my list? Do you have things to add, things to take out? That's what I want to know. But that is all I have for you guys in this video. I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.